All right. Welcome to the podcast audience. It is no, don't not welcome to the podcast audience. Welcome to the podcast, audience. It's Monday, August 30th, 2021, 7:09 p.m. And my guest today is Trina L. Martin. I'm Josh Rachlis. I'm in Ottawa. I'm going to change my name. I've been calling myself Celebrity Josh, and it's been the Celebrity Josh Show, but I might call myself Spark and call this Spark U, as in Spark University, where I interview people to teach them how to do amazing things, which will wind up being no different than my random discussions before, but I'm calling it something different. So maybe it'll make a difference. So we'll see. And where are you talking to us from?
I'm in hot Houston, Texas.
Hot Houston. Very good. And you've got a fancy mic there. I saw Trina on her big mic, so I was like, all right, you know what? Normally I just use my little Apple headsets mic, but I'm going to try this one. So we'll see if I sound any better today. And then one day I'm going to try like Squadcast or Zencaster or Clean Feed, where they record on your end and my end and then mix it together. And then it's supposed to be even better audio. Have you ever done those?
I have been on shows that do those. I don't do that. So
did you notice that it sounded any better when you listened back?
No.
Did you listen back?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I don't know. I remember, I think there was who's the comedian guy? Ricky Gervais. I think he asked like Johnny Depp once, like, have you seen your own movies? He's like, oh no, maybe that was just to see if he's seen The Tourist. But I think somebody asked him, like Letterman or something, said, have you watched it? And he's like, I never watch my own movies. Why would I do that? And maybe a lot of people don't. I think Tom Cruise probably does though. I feel like I saw an interview with him saying he watches like at least a movie a day, and Fallon was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I like learning and studying movies and whatever, and you know, he doesn't have to work for money, so I guess he's got the time. Unlike me, I got the time to do this. Am I getting money for this? No. Maybe
you can sit and watch movies.
Maybe I should just be sitting and watching movies. But you don't sit and watch movies. You've got like a whole long bio. I don't even know where to begin. Yeah, like what do you normally talk about in a podcast? What can we do different?
We can talk about whatever you want.
Oh my god. All right, let's just talk about me then. No, just kidding. Well, I'm looking at your bio on Podmatch, ideas that you talk about: personal growth, leadership, technology and business, overcoming adversity, growing despite circumstance. Those are all things I could do. And then things you're ready to answer. Tell us about your book. Tell us about your journey of self-development. What is leadership? What makes a good leader? How did you succeed as a woman of color in tech? I would love to know how to be a woman in color in tech. Let's see.
And you don't go by those, believe me.
No, I know. They're just good ideas. I figure like maybe we could do a little sample platter. It could be like a little buffet, a little taste of each. And then, you know, one day if I talk to you again, I'll be like, okay, you know what? I really like the roast beef. Let's have more of that. But the mushrooms weren't that great, so I don't need those again. So let's see. I don't know. Let's start with a tiny summary of where you started. From Chicago as the youngest of 4 children.
That's me.
Yeah. Coincidence. So was I. No. Oldest of 3 from Ottawa. Is that where I'm from? No, Toronto. I don't even know where I'm from anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyways, so then what happened then?
Okay, so youngest of 4 children, single mother who was very abusive, verbally abusive to me. And my goal with growing up was just to succeed and get away from her.
Get rid of your mom. Uh-oh. I hope the police aren't listening.
Yeah, sometimes that was a thought, but she has been deceased now for a long time. So to get away from that, because it was very traumatic. And my way of doing that was to go to college. And I was the first person in my family to go to college, paid for it myself, and I got away and never looked back.
That's awesome. College was my favorite time. Like just, high school's kind of, it just kind of, bullies and nonsense. And then college, like, wow, you're around smart people who actually want to be there. And girls actually like you because I don't know, because now they care about like creative things rather than just who's the football jock or whatever. So that's cool. I mean, I'm sure your experience wasn't exactly the same, but what did you study there?
I got my degree in computer science. So that's how I ended up in tech. Retired from the military.
Were you interested in computer science before, or you like, how did you decide to do that?
Actually, I went to a technical high school in Chicago. So going to that technical high school is what really kind of got me interested in computer science of the things could do because I'm a child of the 70s. So I didn't have computers and we weren't rich. So if I had a typewriter, that was a, great day for me.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a technical high school, learning about computers, got kind of fascinated, saying, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. So I went to college and decided to major in computer science. And that's how I lived my life.
So is this before the internet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This was before the internet.
Yeah.
This is when I actually had a computer that was just the black screen with the little white, you type the little white things and,
Yeah. Yeah.
text and you're like, oh my God,
I didn't even have, like, I went to college, like university, 91 to 95.
Mhm.
And the first year I bought like a used Apple from this guy in Ottawa. I was like, yeah, I don't need it. And it broke like immediately. It never occurred to me to, I don't know, sue him or buy another one or something. So I never had a computer. And yeah, and just in fifth and fourth year, there was rumors of like the nerds in the computer room were sending each other electronic mail. And I'm like, what is that? And then I think, yeah, my friend gave me a computer. He was moving away and he's like, you can have my computer. And I discovered that you could dial into the school library and book something. And then I found a little chat room. This is all like green letters on a screen. And
Yes.
I was typing with someone. She's like, oh, I work at the bakery down the street. I'm like, what? And I went to meet her. And that was like my first internet date. I walked in. I'm like, hey, I was the guy on the computer. She's like, what? And that was it. I was hooked.
Wow. Well, see, I even predate you because I went to college 89 to 94.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was really pre internet. But yeah, I got hooked on the internet. I actually bought my first computer was a gateway. I don't even know if they still exist. A gateway, what was it, like a 286 DX or whatever. And I was like, oh, it actually I had a floppy disk drive. I had two. I had the 3.5 and a 5.25. And I was like,
Oh,
oh
wow.
my God, it's great. So
Yeah. Because when I was, I guess in grade 6, I was like, I want to get something. And all my friends had like Ataris or in television, but I thought, no, I should be smarter. I should get a computer. So I got a VIC 20 and you could load a game on a cassette tape that would take to like, I don't know how long. And then you'd play this little thing, like a ship that would fly through space or something. But yeah, I don't know what I should have kept that. I don't know where that went. But yeah, you see, that's kids listening right now. You don't understand. Like this is, I've got a phone that now does more than the rocket ships did back then. And it's pretty crazy, but that was good of you to be on top of it. I remember like after university, I went to college for a year for copywriting. And one of our assignments was to learn HTML and make a website. And I never finished it. I was like, I don't know, this is hard. I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, if I wish I had been a Mark Zuckerberg and said, no, I get it. But, and then just built a website, but I still don't know how to build a website. So who knows? Okay. So you're forward thinking. You're like, I'm going to take computers. You went to college for that. And then what happened?
went to college, had to self finance. After my first year, I was like, I need some help. Joined the Army. This was 1990. So, of course, Desert Storm was going on.
Right. I
And
remember that. Wow.
you don't remember that? Or
No,
you
I
do?
do. I think I was in a friend's basement. We're watching TV and we're watching. Was that when it was all exciting because you're seeing like sort of night vision missiles being fired at buildings or something? I feel like that was it on the news or something.
Yeah. And then, that was our first kind of, Saddam Hussein type of thing. He has nuclear weapons and all of that stuff. So, yeah. So I joined the Army. And lo and behold, the job that I got in the Army was chemicals, chemical specialist. And
Like specialize in like identifying chemical weapons or something.
in being immersed in it. So my title was nuclear biological chemical specialist. So
So like what they were dipping you in vats of chemicals to see if you would become an X-Man or something.
basically that's I tell my kids, I'm like, yeah, I probably glow in the dark from everything I've done. So yeah, I got called for Desert Storm at the last minute, didn't have to go, served a couple years in the Army, transferred to the Navy, and had a 30-year career.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. I forget, I don't even remember whose podcast it was, but they were interviewing an author who's writing thrillers now about the Navy, like a murder that took place on a boat and stuff. And he's talking about how like a boat has 5,000 people and it's like its own city. And it just sounds like this crazy life.
Yeah. Yep. It is. Yeah. It actually, carriers are cities on waters because you can, you have 5,000-6,000 people on them. So.
Wow. Because I've been doing my stand-up comedy lately, talking about how I wish I could find the equivalent of university residence, because I loved being around friends and being around people all the time. And I'm like, the only option I can think of is to go to prison. I'd have friends down the hall. I'd have social activities. I'd have sex, whether I want it or not.
That you don't want.
Yeah. What's that?
I said, you'll end up having friends that you don't want.
I'll also have friends that I don't want. Exactly. So maybe not the best idea. And then my other idea is move into a retirement home. Same benefits. Or not. But yeah, I guess the army would be a third option. I should think about that. A friend actually did tell me, I met this woman in a Facebook singles group last summer, and she said, I think she said at 50 she joined the army, and some kind of, I don't know, I can't remember what she's doing in there, but she said I could join and be like communications person and be on the news and talk about what's going on. I'm like, oh man, I'm tempted. We'll see. I don't know. And so were you always living on a boat, or no, not for 30 years?
No, no. I was a what they called a land sailor. I wasn't on a boat. I did 14 years enlisted. Then I got my commission to become an officer. So I was an officer for 16 years. So that I went over my 30, and yeah, it was a great career. I've been around the world a few times and met some amazing people who are still my friends today, that if I had not been in the Navy, I would have never crossed their path. So it's a good experience.
Were they people in the Navy or just people you met like around the world that you wouldn't have run into otherwise?
Both actually. My Navy friends, and I actually have met people just, in the different countries and ever, that were pretty interesting people.
Wow, that's quite the life. That's pretty cool. And so, the rest of your resume here, like, does that all start after that? You're like, okay, now I'm going to be this, I don't know, whatever you're doing, coaching and authoring and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's here lately, because I'm retired out of the military, so I'm not in the military anymore. And yeah, so I coach. I've used my 2 decades in tech to do that, and I have a podcast, so I'm a podcaster. I've written 2 books. What else have I done?
Well, how did you like, okay, so like you're done with the Navy, you're retired, and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna write books and start a podcast. Like, how did you start? Or has that always been sort of in your head, or how does that all happen?
It's kind of funny. So when podcasting, so this is a story back a long time ago. So when podcasting first became, I guess, well known or whatever, and like in 2007 or 8,
yeah,
I wanted to do one then, but I was not knowledgeable on everything it took to do it. So I did some recording on my computer and uploaded it to iTunes and thought, okay, this is it. And wondered, okay, how come nobody's listening? Well, it was more, you had to do more than that, which I didn't realize at the time. So hence, I've been doing my show for 3 years now. So hence 3 years ago, I decided, oh, I want to get back on this podcasting thing and really do it. And I just think I did it. So that's what I did, because I like podcasts. So I figured I want to do something. My podcast is talking to people, inspirational, kind of, I have unscripted conversations with them to know their journey through life. So whether I've had celebrities, business owners, entrepreneurs, people in leadership, all of these different people who want to share their story to inspire others. So not just their success, I want to know their failures as well and their journey.
Well, I'm the right person to talk to for that.
Well, we may need to have you on then. So yeah, so that's what I do. It's very interesting. People love it. Like I said, it's unscripted. People come on, and and I get tired of people with the, I'm living my best life. This is how I did it, blah, blah, blah. I get people telling me that, but then I also say, okay, what failures have you gone through? What have you learned Because we all go through failures, and you should learn from them, even if you don't. So that's been very interesting. I've talked to people from Jerusalem, all around the world. So it's been very interesting.
Cool. Well, that's interesting because definitely failures I like to hear about. Like every time I listen to James Altucher and he talks about how he made millions but went broke 8 times, I'm like, okay, that gives me hope. Like, because I keep hearing like Dean Graciosi and his YouTube ads. I started from nothing and I made millions and now I live in my mansion with my. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, that doesn't help me. Like, what? I want to hear somebody who screwed up and lost all their money again and then got it back. I'm like, okay, so that's, that gives me hope. So that's.
How did you do that? That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I want to hear that. That's why I'm always like, yeah, but what did you do? And so, of course, you can't repeat somebody's exact things, but anything can be ideas. Like I think everybody's got. That's why I was thinking, I'd call this Spark You, and it's like learning tips from people. You hear their stories, and you're like, oh, maybe that's something I could try, because everybody's. That's what learning is. Like I used to think that, oh, I don't want to become a teacher. Like people who can't do things, they teach. But now I realize that's how everybody learns everything. Like somebody else does it. You've only got so much time in the day. You can't do everything. So you learn from somebody else what they've done, and then you can take that on. And that's how we grow and advance and everything. Right. So I think we can learn from everyone, whether it's what not to do or what to do. So that's pretty cool. And you've even got like this big pink thing with a picture of yourself on there. Like, what is that?
Yeah, this is my podcasting flag. So my podcast is called
Trina
Talk. So yeah.
That's the biggest flag I've ever seen. I've got like this little square one on my handheld mic where I just put a sticker on.
My thing, as you see, to hold my mic up is pretty big.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's a big mic, so you can't get away with little one. And that's the right size for something now, because it's sort of the same shape as your Facebook banner photo or something. Like it's not, and why would you have the same size little one that people use on the news or something? Because you're sitting there, you're not going anywhere, you're not walking around with your podcast set up. So, well, that's good. I gotta get that, so that because you should be branded everywhere, like something visual. People are watching this on YouTube and they're also listening. But I'll put my new thing that I started last week is, instead of just putting up my little hand-drawn logo as the image on every podcast, I now take a screenshot of the talk, and then now people can see what each person looked like. So and now they'll see your little flag in there and like, oh, Trina, she's all pink, that's her thing. And she even matches her shirt and her chair and everything and her headphones and her eyeshadow. It's all ridiculous.
Have to be coordinated.
Yeah, coordinated. That's smart. I'm just sitting here in front of my dollar store green screen papers. And so, okay, because I was researching how to do podcasts as well. Around the same time, I was meeting with this producer because I was writing commercials, and this guy at a sound house is like, hey, we could do, we could get Rogers Cable to sponsor our podcast, and we'll do it in the studio. And I'm like, how does that work? How do we get a sponsor? What is a podcast? And I kept meeting with I met with this comedian who did a podcast. I'm like, how do I get something on iTunes? Like, tell me how to do that. He's like, and I took all these notes and I still couldn't get it. And I took a day-long podcast course, still didn't do it. I went to a couple of podcast conventions in Toronto. And finally last year I decided, okay, I'll just sign up for some podcast hosting and then read the instructions and just take a file from a video I just made about Indiana Jones and just figure out how to post it. And so eventually, and even the instructions I was reading online were already obsolete, because like 3 months earlier they changed iTunes to Apple Music or something. Like it's all changing all the time. But I finally just did it. And I'm like, okay. And then I did a few interviews at the beginning of COVID, and then not much. And then I remembered podcast or pod match that matches you with guests like a couple of weeks ago, and I started booking things and I cranked out like 10 interviews, and not even just from there, like people from Instagram or LinkedIn. But I'm trying to do them more now, just to, I don't know, I like them, and I feel like you have to do them to build momentum. Like I had like just a few downloads for the old ones, but now I can see that on that day interview, like uploading more, you start to get more downloads. And I tried changing the description of my podcast from like celebrity news, because it's not really what it is, to now like, okay, now I'm putting in the business category and entrepreneurship and coaching, and see if that takes off. So yeah, it's all experiments. It's all trying stuff.
It is.
And like, so what's the name of your show?
Trina Talk.
Trina Talk. Very good. And have you ever, what kind of feedback do you get from people, or do you have, like, what do you do with it? I was thinking of starting a Facebook group for my podcast, and then we can all talk about what we've learned each episode and that kind of thing. Do you do anything like that?
No, that's a good idea. No, I don't.
Hmm.
I don't do that. Actually, I do the show. I release the audio version, and then I've started doing the video, and so I'm starting to put it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But the guests love it. The listeners love it. I got listeners all over. But I enjoy myself just talking to the people, and because I've had some interesting guests, and they're, like I said, just talking, and it's conversational. So I don't have any scripted questions. It's not like so what is your favorite color? And it's all depends on how the conversation flows, how I get my questions, just like it would be in real life, right? You meet somebody, you're not sitting there pulling out a scroll and going down a list of questions. So it's very interesting. And then I have 10 questions at the end, kind of rapid fire, that I ask of everyone. So they're the same questions, and people are usually very surprised by them. So they're like, wow, that was a good question. It made me think. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I give them to you. Nothing that's going to be, embarrassing or anything like that, but it just makes people think. So it's fun.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I've heard of people who, even if they do unscripted stuff, if they've got a little segment, like, okay, every time we pull it, and then the listeners look forward to that segment, and they know it's going to be this, and they can compare the answers to other people. And then you could even turn that into some book, like, here's the 10 questions I asked 100 people, and here's how they answered. And it's kind of like a neat structure. So I should start.
I was thinking about doing that. I think, yeah, that's probably going to be eventually be my thing, is to take those questions and put them in a book. And
yeah, because that's, and sorry, what?
Of my guests, their answers.
Yeah, because that's what, again, James Altucher, I've been listening to a lot of him lately, but he talks about that's what you could do. Like, if you even just have a podcast and you get one of these services to make a transcript, that could be a book. Here's the 10 people I interviewed, or I asked these people the secrets of whatever kind of thing. So that could be cool. And I have a shocking revelation here. This interview is not scripted. I know you can't believe it, but I'm just winging it. Because it sounds so planned, I know. But that's what I like to do too. I mean, I guess, I just like improvising. I just like sort of random wandering conversations and see what we talk about, rather than being, okay, now I have to ask you. So I don't know. We'll see if anybody likes it. Sometimes I look at the list of where people are listening to your podcast and the analytics, and it's fun. It's like mostly Canada, mostly US, but okay, there's the Kingdom of Spain, and there's the Kingdom of Sweden, and like Vietnam, and like, I'm like, what 10 people randomly stumbled across this in Sweden? It makes me wonder, like, and if they're listening, why wouldn't they reach out to me and go, hello, I listened to your show, and I was thinking how funny you are. Like, I'd love to hear that. So if anybody anywhere, not just Sweden, if anybody's listening to this, leave a comment, or on YouTube or Facebook, or I don't know, where do people listen to this? On your podcast app, that thing, Apple, that kind of stuff. I don't know.
The same for my show too, because I get those random places too. And I'm like, really? Are you listening to a podcast, or was that like an accident?
That's what I wonder. Like, I mean, how would you even, they just scrolling through the millions of podcasts. Oh, this sounds good for a second. And then they just sit there. I don't know. That's cool. But that's my fantasy, to like just connect with people. Sometimes I want to, I don't know, just find a podcast that's from like a little town in Iceland or something, and just listen to the, I'm going to do another Icelandic accent. I don't know. I'm this is Sven, and we're talking from the town of 200 people, and the goat died today. And I just imagine like how cozy it would be to listen to something like that.
So do they have goats in Iceland?
Probably not. I don't know what would live in Iceland. Yeah. But there was something I read, again, James Altucher was talking about, he did an experiment where he tried to buy Greenland. Like, he heard that Donald Trump was talking about buying Greenland. So then he started a Kickstarter and wrote this article for Kickstarter. Like, instead of writing an article, he wrote a Kickstarter post about buying, and then it got all this coverage, and he used the Kickstarter thing in his article or something like that. And then he got kicked off Kickstarter because it was sort of a joke, but he raised like $100,000 to buy Greenland. And during this research, he discovered that, what was it? Greenland's not a country or something, but maybe it was that or somewhere else. I read that like Greenland is it's a big trick, the name, because it's really not green at all, but they called it Greenland to try to get more tourism or something. And then you show up and like, this is all ice. Whereas Iceland is actually warmer than Greenland. I think that's the confusing thing. So maybe they do have goats. I don't know.
I don't know. I spent a day in Iceland a year ago.
Oh, what was that, Navy related or no? What was that?
Oh, that was a plane
Yeah.
diverging because somebody got it sick. So I got stuck in Iceland for a day. So,
I heard like I think it might be Iceland. Like they've got this special deal. Like if you're flying to Europe or somewhere, but if you fly Air Iceland, you can divert and spend a day in Iceland or something, like to get people to go. Like, listen, you're never going to come to Iceland anyways, but if you're flying past us, you might as well stop by for a day and visit the hot springs or something.
springs and the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah, like I picture it as this desolate landscape with just every now and then like a little hotel made of glass in the middle of a rocky field. And but I'm sure that's not. I'm sure they must have things. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, like I was supposed to be a digital nomad. I sold my condo a couple of years ago, and I'm like, where do I go? Do I go to like some island in Ireland that is asking for digital nomads, or do I go to Jamaica for the winter? Or and I'm still nowhere. I'm still sitting in Ottawa, but I feel like I should go somewhere.
So what do? Are you living in hotels?
Well, that was the plan. I'm like, I'm going to live in hotels. It's like, $100 a night, 3,000 a month. Like I could do that. It's just like an expensive apartment. So, but then I was like, well, I'm not ready to travel yet. I've got to do my taxes and stuff and deal with my boxes of crap that I don't want to pay for storage. So I'm moving into people's houses. And then, so I was just staying in hotels in Toronto. And then when I visit Ottawa, I'd stay in hotels there. And then the first traveling I did was to go to Orlando at the beginning of March 2020 for a podcast convention called Podfest. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. Made all these friends, and it was in the hotel. I'm like, you know what? I'll stay in Florida. And a couple drove me to Tampa, and I was like, got a hotel at like a Howard Johnson beside like a strip bar that's like in the shape of a UFO on stilts or something. I never went in because at this point I never left the room because everybody's like, oh, there's COVID going around, and Tom Hanks has it, and people watching my Instagram stories are like, don't touch your face. I'm like, I can't leave the room. Like, it's craziness. And then I rented a car to drive to Miami. I'm like, maybe I'll stay at my friend Jen's. Then she's like, yeah, stay here. And then her husband's like, no, we can't have a stranger here. Like he told her, forget it. We've got a kid. And so I just got on a plane and flew back. And then I stayed with a friend for a couple of weeks, and I was looking for an apartment to rent, and was going to take a room in a basement. And the guy living down there, he called, or he wrote to me and said, I think you're a journalist covering COVID. I looked at your Twitter and you can't come here. And I'm like, okay. So I just came to my parents' place. I'm like, I'll crash in the basement for like a week or something and see what's going on. And what is it? August 2021 now. Yeah. So, but my sister came to visit this week, and she's like, so yeah, I had an idea. Like, maybe what if you left? What if you moved out on November 1st? I'm like, you had an idea, or did my parents have an idea? So I'm kicking things into high gear. So I don't know. My parents are like, get an apartment in Ottawa. I'm like, well, no, if I'm going to pay, I don't want to sit in Ottawa. There's nothing here. Mm-hmm. Toronto, I feel like that's probably what I'll do. I started applying for jobs yesterday, and I've already got interviews tomorrow. Like I'm realizing, like I was working as a copywriter for 15 years, and I left that job 6 years ago to try working for myself. And I'm going to be free. I'm going to travel. I'm going to be an actor or something. And I don't even know what I've done. I honestly don't know. And I'm missing people. Like I'm looking back now, why didn't I just get another job? Like I could have afforded my condo. I could have worked as a copywriter at a radio station, or even 2 years ago, just before COVID, a radio station in a small town in Timmins, Ontario was like, oh, why do you want to move up north? And I'm like, I don't know if I do. And I never got back to them, but I could have been a radio host in a cool small town for 2 years now. Like I was afraid, like I'll be trapped there, but time flies, right? And then you're like, what did I do? So I'm trying to figure it out. Do I go back to an ad agency?
You could freelance.
Yeah, I started freelancing. I'm working on I just randomly, there's a freelance chat on Facebook where they mention jobs, and I was always afraid to say, yeah, I'll do it, because I'm like, I don't want to have to do work. But I messaged one a couple of days ago, and they're like, yes, okay. So I'm helping with a pitch for a pharmaceutical company. And that's what I was doing just when you reminded me we have this chat. And then I've got another interview with another agency tomorrow that's looking for an associate creative director. And see, I was randomly applying for lots of jobs over the years, like to Amazon and Apple, like things in the US, and I don't have a visa to work there. So it was kind of just safe, because I'm like, they're never going to hire me. And then I discovered that for 4 years I was sending out a blank link to my portfolio because Tumblr changed their settings and it was hidden. I'm like, well, that's why I never heard back. But now I'm sort of sending out things to Toronto where I could conceivably be hired, and another place wants to talk to me tomorrow. I'm like, oh crap. Like, no, I might have to go do something. But nothing has to be permanent. I could go work for a couple of months just to try something and have people around again. I don't know.
And then Trina called you and was like, "Hey, we have a podcast tonight." And you're like, "What?"
I know. I was just I interviewed an actress or a comedian in LA earlier today. And then I was like, okay, I got to do my work. So I was working, and then my niece and nephew came back from my uncle's hotel pool, and they were like running in like, and I'm like, oh. And then I guess around then you were you were like, are we doing this now? I'm like, oh, right. Because for some reason I'm using like Square Up for my bookings, and they show up if you make the Google Calendar a whole page, but if it's just looking on your phone, like it's not in my main calendar for some reason. So I've got to make an effort to actually look to see what's going on. Maybe I should use a different booking system. I was using Calendly, but I feel like it was more limited or something. I don't know.
And I didn't get any kind of link. So that's why I was like, what is this number? I was like, is this a Zoom?
Oh, yeah. That's because I just didn't remember to send a link.
Okay. Like, what's happening?
Well, I used to do, like, until last week, I was doing them all on Skype. And then somebody was like, I don't have Skype. I don't want to do Skype. I'm like, all right, I'll do Zoom. And I'm like, actually, Zoom looks a lot better quality. The video looks better. So I'm like, all right, that's a step up. And then if I really decide to, because the reason I didn't move to Squadcast a couple of years ago, because they have the better audio, because they record on your end and then they merge it with mine, so it's not like just over the internet. But they didn't have video, and I'm like, well, I still want video, so I'll just use Skype. But now they've got video capability, so I'm like, I guess I should cough up some money for it. But they're like, you buy different plans, like it gives you 2 hours a month or 5. I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to be counting the minutes going, oh, do I have to go to the next plan now? But if I'm going to take it seriously, if I'm going to be like Trina Talks,
you have to do what you got to do.
yeah. So let's see, you said you wrote a book too? Oh yeah. Is your book on Amazon?
It is.
All right. Because I'm an Amazon influencer, so I can add it to my Amazon page. And that way I can monetize this interview. I can put it like, buy her book at this in the description. And then it'll be like, look, I have a reason for doing this.
Yes, yes.
So let's see. Trina's the author of the book From a Mess to Amazing, the Josh Rachlis story. No, wait. From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve, a contributing writer for Thrive Global and a co-author of the anthology Make It Happen. So Thrive, that's what Arianna Huffington started, right?
Yes.
Yes, she's like my idol. I always wanted to be like a writer for the Huffington Post or something and have a regular column. And I think I talked to them once and they were like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I was just going to write about my life or something. I never wrote the sample, but
that's why you haven't heard from them.
Right. I'm realizing that now. All these things where you don't follow up and then you're like, oh, that's why nothing happened. I need to read your book. How did you come up with the 7 steps?
My life, just things I've done in my life, the failures I've had in my life, how I've overcome them, and things that I wanted to share with other people who, when they get to a point and they're feeling helpless or hopeless like I was, they can say, you know what? I've made, mistakes in my past, or where I started at was a mess, but that doesn't dictate your future. So that's why I wrote that book.
How long did it take you to write?
A couple of months.
Okay, that's not too bad. Like, how long would it, like, you work on it each day? I'm getting to the nitty gritty just because, I'm always curious. Like, okay, if I want to write a book, how long is this going to take? Like, what's going to happen?
It depends. I learned a format, and, I just kind of did a brain dump, right? Did a brain dump.
That's what they say. Just put it all out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just put it all out there. Once I got it in some kind of, concise format, then I had an editor to go through it and, pick out, saying, okay, what do you mean by this? Can you expound on this? Or I think you should reword this or rephrase this or explain this better. So, you can get it all out on paper and kind of structure it, but then you need that editor who's going to look at it, somebody who's got fresh eyes, and not you, because you know what you want to say or how you think you're saying it. But when you have somebody who's totally unbiased, look at it and say, okay, well, I don't understand this. What do you mean? That helps you.
Then you go, you're stupid. I don't care what you think.
Like, this is my book. I don't want your editing. No.
Yeah, you suck. How did you find your editor?
Actually, I had someone that actually was on my podcast who had written a book and started a publishing company. So I asked them for referrals, and they referred me to the person they used, which ended up being a pretty awesome person.
See, it's all about the connections, and that's a benefit of the podcast. You meet people and then they know people, and then things
Yes.
happen. And then how did you get it? Like, what do you do on Amazon? You sort of, I guess you've got your thing, and then you say, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's a whole process that I could Google, but like,
Yeah,
what do you?
I've published on, well, I'm actually on other platforms. So like I could, my book at Barnes and Nobles, I actually had somebody like order it through Barnes and Noble. So I'm not tied to Amazon. So there's different routes. I did the audio book, which I did myself.
Oh,
Um, that was a process, as you know, because you do voiceover.
yes, I would never. I just listened. James Altucher had a podcast recently, or his producer and somebody else talking all about narrating a book, and should you narrate your own book, and because some authors, they're not good at speaking, and they shouldn't, but other authors, it's like people want people want to hear the book in that person's voice because he understands it the best. And that's cool, because I mean, obviously you're a podcast and maybe you speak well, so it'd be natural for you to do it.
I mean, I did it. It was harder than what I thought
Mm.
because you're actually reading it and you have to adhere to the certain standards that Audible or whatever platform you're putting it on, wants, and then you have to make sure other people understand it. But at the end of the day, I like doing it because I like to listen to audiobooks, but I like when the author reads their own book,
Mm.
especially if it's someone that I'm very familiar with their voice and their cadence. And so when I hear like just a voiceover person read a book that somebody that I've followed and I actually know how they sound, it kind of takes me down from the book. It doesn't make me enjoy it as much as if the author themselves had have read it.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't even know if I've listened to audiobooks, but I would want to hear them because I'd be like, you know, it's them telling me the truth. Like, they know it. This is actually what they're saying. They know how they meant to say these words. Like, if I hear somebody else reading it, it's like, well, I could read it myself. I don't need to hear you. That's why when I saw that Jerry Seinfeld read his own audiobook, I'm like, good. Yeah, you can't have somebody else reading his book. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, because
That's,
you want to get the emotion, and I think I did that. I think I did
yeah.
the emotions, and I've had people who read my book contact me and say, "Oh God, the book was really great." So I'm hoping with the audio book and people actually hearing my voice and the inflections and the emotions in it, that it's as good as reading it.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I did my first sort of audio book a few months ago. I was hired to do this Christian book. So it was like a page every day for this. I forget. It was just like the history of Christianity. And it was like, but that's a lot. That's 365 pages. Like, even if it takes, I don't know, like 5 or 10 minutes, it took me months to finish, and I did not want to do it. I was like, they even gave me a bonus. Like, they said, okay, if you can finish by the end of May, and this is like 2 months I had to do it, like, we'll give it an extra $250 or something. And I didn't start because I was like, I can't do this. So I eventually did it, but it took hours and hours and hours. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I'd want to do this again.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, all right, I'll do it again. Because it's once you get in the rhythm and you figure it out. But yeah, it's hard because it's not, if anybody's like done voice acting, that it's not just, I'm just going to read this book for 2 hours. It's like, no, you got to pause and take out your breaths, and your mouth clicks and swallow. And so,
Yes.
it could
And
take an
that's
hour.
what I learned when I did it myself. Because I was like, wow. Because at first I was like, oh, it's my book. I can read it. It's going to be great. But like you say, you have to drink water. You have to know, okay, let me pause here. Let me stop. Okay, does it have enough buffer at the beginning and at the end so that the record, and then you have to chop everything up, right? It's not, you can't just go reading for 2 hours. You have to say, okay, here's chapter one. Let me read, blah, blah, blah. Stop. That's one file. Go on to chapter two. Stop. That's another file. So it's a lot more involved than what most people think.
Yeah, I had to do a separate file for each of these pages. And then, yeah, like, that's on that podcast I was listening to, because it was with this guy who does audiobook producing. And he's saying, yeah, like Audible, like all these different companies have different requirements. So it might need different, like, all in one file or separate files or wave files or who knows what. So it's all, yes, not as easy, but when you do it, you do it. Like, I interviewed a woman a couple of weeks ago who is a voice actor, and she started doing audiobooks. Like, she'll message friends and say she'll read their book, or she does short stories for her podcast, reads other people's little short stories, like just fun things like that. So there's lots you can do now that
Mm-hmm.
that, like, we're talking about technology advances. Like, even 5 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine about like he was in New York now, and we're like, how do we could do a podcast together, but he was going to have to buy this software for $5,000 that we could talk to each other and record it. It was this whole thing. But now look at us, we're using Zoom for free and
Right.
with video. Like, it's crazy. So I keep beating myself up for like, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? Well, with what? Like, what were you going to do? I probably did what I could. I would do stand up and get a VHS tape of it, and that's it. Like, it wasn't as easy as now. Everybody can be a creator, but you can film a little video on their phone and become famous quickly. So it's good. In a way, I wish I was a teenager now, but in a way, I guess it's also better that I'm alive now as opposed to not, I guess. So it's all, well, I'll have to read your 7 steps. Like, what's one of the steps? Like, as a little teaser.
Well, number one step, which is the most important step, is to change your mindset.
Uh-oh.
So, you want to be a podcaster. You have to get your mind ready, because until you change your internal you, your external you is not going to change. So, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, well, why isn't my life going the way I want or whatever? And I'm a firm believer is, what you expect is what you get. So you have to learn how to change your mindset.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about just, you don't want to just say being positive, but picturing, I guess what you focus on is what you get, kind of thing. Like, if you sit there bemoaning what you've missed, that's all the brain energy you're wasting on that. But if you just say, okay, I'm going to do a podcast today and I'm working on this, like, you grow, you get things, you move ahead, I guess.
Right.
And then I also read recently that motivation, you don't wait to be motivated, just do action. Causes motivation. So like, I'm not motivated to work out. No, just start working out, and then you'll feel good that you're doing it, and you'll keep doing it. Like, don't wait until like, I'm ready to do the podcast, I'm ready to do comedy. Just sit down and do what I did. Like, I break into steps. Like, I don't know how to do podcasts. All right, I'm pressing buy $10 podcast hosting. Now it says, okay, make a file. Okay, what do I do? Like, just break it down in little bits and just force yourself through it, and then you're doing it, I guess. And that's it. And then you can look back and go, I did it. I don't know. That's my 7 steps right there. Somebody write that down. It's my book.
That's your book. Get it together.
Yeah. That's fun. Where, oh, so did you say, where do you live? Oh, you're
I'm
Chicago.
in Houston.
Oh, you're in Houston. Hot Houston, right?
Chicago, but
Yeah.
I'm in Houston. Yes.
Do you like Houston? I'm trying to figure out where to live.
Not really. Not really. I mean, cost of living is good. You can get a lot here for, the cost of living, but it wasn't my choice to move to Houston. Actually, I had a job that moved me here. And since I have teenagers that are in high school, I'm going to stay here and let them finish high school. But it was not some place that I chose to move and that I would have had ever chosen to move to.
Yeah, and I guess most people wouldn't know. I was about to say, oh, most cities are the same, but you've been all over the world, so you might have a sense of where might be better to live.
Yeah, I think so. At least for me. I mean, I can't say for everyone, but I have my preferred places.
Because I'm planning to be a billionaire by probably the end of September.
Okay.
I've got a friend or somebody building me a website. I'm like, okay, this is my big idea. And on the other hand, I'll have my Spark University, and people are going to pay me like Tony Robbins type of money to tell them my 7 steps of life. And then I'm ready to go. Like, in the old days, I'd be like, oh, I got to go to LA. I got to be a famous comedian in LA or something. And so maybe I'll still go there, but people are all fleeing there. So where would Trina go if she had all the money in the world?
I'm going to an island. I don't know about you. I wouldn't go to LA. I would go to like the Seychelles or something.
The what?
Look it up, the Seychelles.
The Seychelles?
Yeah.
She sells seashells by the Seychelles?
No.
Okay.
Look it up. It's the actual place.
All right. See, that's where you want to go. Someplace you have to look up, because nobody else is going to know to go to the Seychelles. Everybody else be in Barbados or something.
Exactly. Why go there? Everybody knows about that.
Yes. If I've been there, then it's not worth going to. Trust me. I shot a commercial there once. Let me think. All right. Because okay. So when I have my Johnny Depp money, I'll buy a Johnny Depp island, or Richard Branson. I'll get my island, and then just invite people over.
So isn't Johnny Depp the one that has like, I don't know, 30, 40 homes all over the place, but he, doesn't go to them?
I don't know. I keep reading that he's broke. Like he had all this money, makes $20 million a movie, but somehow he's broke. But I'm like, how could he? I don't think that can be true. But I believe that he probably has 40 homes and doesn't go to them. I don't know. He's been having trouble with Amber Heard, I guess his wife or girlfriend, and she was accusing him of abusing her, but he's saying she abused him, and now the evidence is out. And then he was kicked off his movies from Disney, but now they're kicking her off her movies. I don't know. It doesn't sound like a healthy relationship.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the opposite of what I'm talking about. Oh, I want to live in residence with surrounded by friends, or I'll go to an island and be completely separated from humanity. So I guess there's no in between. But I also sort of learned in my digital nomading, living in Best Western hotels for a couple of months, that it's not as much fun as I thought. It's like I didn't want to be tied down. It's like, why would I be in one house? But you kind of, maybe you do have to kind of be somewhere. Like it's difficult to live out of a bag and always wonder where you're going and have no grounding. I don't know.
Especially if, it probably would be more fun if it was a better caliber of hotels.
That also might be true. Like I did enjoy the fancy, what was it called, Hyatt Orlando World or Hilton or something in for the podcast thing. And then I mean, I did like the Best Western because they had a little free breakfast. And but my fantasy of like, it's like we're all on vacation and I'll be meeting people every minute. No, that people are not talking to you in the lobby. I mean, maybe like it's not like when I was 20, and even then I tried prancing around to hostels for a week before I finally met people. It wasn't as easy, but yeah, in my head, I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'll just stop at hostels and we'll all travel around together. But when you're like a 48-year-old man who's, I don't know. I mean, I've joined some nomad groups for older people, and they seem to be like, they're out on their boats and doing their thing. Most of them probably have had their kids and now it's their time. But I never got married or had kids, so I feel like I haven't. What? So I don't know. But I could beat myself up about this all the time, and I always do. But you gotta get your mindset. That's why I like doing this podcast, because it's like at least it gets me out of my head for a little bit, and I'm just talking to somebody new and hearing their story, and hopefully other people are hearing the story as well and enjoying it in Sweden. So I don't know. So like, what do you think of my, like, okay, I mean, you do a podcast, like, what would you say? Like, do I need a topic? Do I, like, when people say, what's your podcast? Should I say, oh, it's a self-improvement podcast and I talk to entrepreneurs about how to make $1 million? Or is it just, I have interesting conversations with people? Is that too airy-fairy? Or, or do I do my thing? It's Spark University. My name is Spark and I'm going to teach you. And then the title of this one will be like how to self-publish a book with Trina Martin, or whatever I decide. So I don't even know what the topic of this one would be yet.
I don't know. And what do you feel? Because you could go several ways with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I just do this, because if I wait until I know what to do, I'm never going to do it. So I just keep hoping this will turn into something. But maybe that's it. I mean, what the heck is Joe Rogan? Like, what is he? He's just talking to people, right?
Just talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what?
On his level, I said, look at him. He's just talking to people, and he's like got the most lucrative deal ever.
Yeah, and same thing with Mark Maron. Like, he just talks to people. And I guess on that level, if you're talking to Elon Musk or Jennifer Lawrence, like, I would listen to that, I guess. Like, maybe it doesn't work if you're just talking to people don't know, but I don't know. Why not? I don't know. But I mean, I've learned something today. I've learned how to, I don't know, just sit down and write a book. I've learned that I should join the Navy. I don't know. Oh yeah. So I guess the things I want to ask people are like, how did you get into your field? So it's like, okay, if I want to write a book, or if I want to join the Navy, how do I do that? And then other things I want to know is like, are you happy? What do you do to be happy? Like, is there any, and I mean, I wish I could go back in time and be smart and be like, okay, I'm 18. I met the love of my life right off the bat. Good work. Marry her, have a house, raise some kids, work on your comedy every night. Like, I can see now everything that would have been smart, but I didn't do that. So there's not a lot of point, but I'm still hoping I can find happiness. So I guess I'm looking for tips from people that maybe I could apply, or other people could apply. Like, is any well, I guess mindset, like, that's your big thing. Is the mindset useful for being happy, or is it just to get things done and then you'll be happy from those things?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything, even getting happy. I mean, being happy, having peace in your life. I mean, because if you're constantly thinking about woe is me, or I'm beating yourself up on why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I mean, yeah, that's not productive to life. So your mindset has to be okay. I didn't do XYZ, but okay, let me move forward from here. Um, you
Yeah.
know,
Okay. Okay. And then, uh, would you ever write a book like, things I learned in the Navy? Like that seems like it would be a unique thing, like 10 my 7 steps for success as learned in the Navy, or
yeah, I I guess I could if I really thought about it. I mean,
how to
I don't
how to,
know if
how
that
to
would be.
kill a man with your bare hands as I learned in the Navy, or
I don't think. Yeah, I wouldn't want to divulge that. So yeah,
uh,
probably not tell that.
is the Navy, is it what I fantasize? Like you're being a boat and have all these friends and be like hanging out in university residence and always like people to play poker with or whatever. Like
You do have a mission there, so it's not it's not just sitting around playing poker all the
it's
time.
not a floating celebrity cruise
No,
tour ship.
yeah, you have a job to do, and it's remember military is 24 hours a day, so there's no like, oh, I'm off. I mean, of course you have shifts, but basically you work 24 hours a day.
Do they give you like an hour a day to just sit there and go, oh, I should have married my girlfriend when I was 18? Like, did they give you that neurotic time? Or
No,
no?
no, you got to fight wars. You got wars to fight and countries to protect. You don't have time for that.
Yeah, well, apparently the army doesn't have time for that in Afghanistan. They're just leaving. That's weird.
Hey, you know, after 20 years, I keep my opinions to myself. Never mind.
Yeah, but isn't there a thing where, yeah, 20 years, but sometimes the way I'm looking at it now, it's like, oh, well, they didn't solve it in 20 years. They might as well leave. But sometimes you just keep doing something. Like, if you see, if I work out every day, I don't say, well, I worked out for 20 years, I'm done. Like, you need to keep doing it every day to maintain whatever it is you did. So that's my new plan
Okay.
if I am ever running the army.
Yeah.
All right. So
I work.
then,
I need to do a workout tonight.
yeah, I didn't today. I woke up.
I
My
go.
mom, my mom was doing a Zoom exercise class at 7:30, and I joined, and or 7, I guess. I joined at 7:30, and my little niece and nephew were visiting, and they joined in, and we used some little weights and did some. Actually, I just joined for the stretches at the end, but I never wound up doing my jog because I've got all my job interviews and all this nonsense. My voice auditions and my freelance copywriting now. It's cutting into my exercise time, but definitely exercise. You need to. It's crucial. Like I tell everybody, you got it.
Yes.
What's that?
After this interview, I'm hitting it.
So that's discipline, right? You're doing it in the night because I always was like, oh, it's nighttime. I'll do it tomorrow, but then I don't do it in the morning. So I feel like you got to do it in the morning, but you schedule the time. Do you have like a Navy military workout?
No, no. I do what works for me.
All
And that's
right.
ultimately what you have to do. You just have to do what works for you, what gets you the results that you want.
What works for you? Do you go into your, this is my fantasy. I'll have my fancy, beautiful house in like a warm place. And then I'll have a garage gym or something, and I'll be lifting my weights in the garage, and my neighbors will walk by and I'll wave to them. Is that what you're doing?
Basically, I do have a garage gym, but
Hmm.
my door is closed. I don't have it up for everybody to see.
And what do you listen to while you're exercising?
It depends. I may listen to music. I may listen to a podcast. I may
Mhm.
listen to a YouTube video or whatever. It depends on what mood I'm in.
Have you paid for YouTube Premium so you can listen to the audio without having the video on?
No,
No, they ask me every day. It's like, do you want? No, I don't want that. I can just play the video. That's fine.
no.
Cool. Well, maybe someday you'll listen to my podcast, or you probably just listen to your own podcast going, oh my God, I'm so good. Trina is such the best host, pumping me up.
No, 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 no. I listen to other people's podcasts
What
a
kind of
lot.
podcast do you listen to? Like inspirational entrepreneurship, Oprah Winfrey type of stuff?
I listen to a lot of the entrepreneurial podcasts. I listen to some tech ones. I listen to some like storyline ones that are kind of like the what was it, Dear John or something like that. And so I have a variety.
All right, a full mix. That's kind of fun. I feel like I'm not in the place where I have the right to listen to story ones. I'm like, I can't waste time. I've got to get my life together. So it's all entrepreneurship stuff. Although there's one that I was listening to for years called The Weekly Planet. These two Australian guys that they talk about the movie news of the week and stuff, and they're very funny. So that's my little treat. And actually, I just realized that every night I fall asleep to political podcasts, so that's not useful at all. But I don't want to listen to the entrepreneurship ones while I'm falling asleep, so I'll be like, oh, I gotta take notes. So that's what I listen to while I'm jogging.
You have to listen. You have to listen to my podcast, Trina Talk, and you'll get people from CEOs to celebrities to business owners, and listen to them, and you can pick up some good tips.
Sweet. And is yours like, what category did you put it into? Like the business category? How did you describe it on Apple and stuff?
I think I put it in self improvement, but I may need to add it and change it. But if you just, you type me in, it comes up. Type in Trina Talk, it comes up. But
yeah, you can. No, I'm just curious as to, and you can always change the description of it. That's what I did a couple of days ago. But I'm like, I listen to Kathy Heller a lot. And I'm like, okay, so how can I, she makes $12 million a year through her podcast and her courses. And I'm like, how do I get on this train? So maybe I should try that, rather than just being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does it, so I can do it too.
Well, basically, she gets $500,000 a year from sponsors, but she's like, she doesn't even consider that anything. And then she just does her little courses on how to get to make you monetize your creative passion, basically. And she'll sign people up for her 2-month course, and she charges people $3,000, and then she gets like 1,000 people, so that's $3 million every time she runs this thing for 2 months. And then that's it. She just does a weekly couple of Zoom calls, and she's like, start a Facebook group, and then charge your friends $10 to be in it, and tell them it's a safe space where they can all talk about their feelings. Or I don't know, something like that. I think maybe I've simplified it, but
yeah, I think so. Oh, I'm like, I don't think it's that easy, but
we'll see. I'll let you know when I make my first $1 million from Spark U.
Let me know.
Cool. And if people want to find you on the internet, like where would you send them to, or whatever?
My website is trinalmartin.com. There you can sign up for my coaching, purchase the book, need tech consulting, or if you just want to reach out to me directly, LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh, see, I didn't even know you do coaching. See, you're doing all the things you didn't even mention. So like, I would hire you for like weekly mindset sessions or something.
You could if you wanted to, but yeah, I do coaching too.
How do people find you? Like on Instagram, or just from their podcast? They'll be like, I want to be coached.
Like I said, you can go to my website, trinalmartin.com. I'm there.
But when people find you, how do you find they have found you?
Oh, like I said, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm big on LinkedIn, so that's my main thing.
But if people so is that where people discover you? Like if you like where have you gotten clients from?
Oh, so yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my main platform that I like. I do some promotion on Instagram too, but yeah, everywhere, because I do this as well. I'm on other people's podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So actually I'm getting ready to launch a new coaching program. And it's for women of color in tech who are in leadership and want to excel to the next level, or women who want to get into leadership. So coaching them and helping them.
So people who are the complete opposite of me in every way.
But I also do one-on-one. So if you want, personal coaching, contact me as well.
I am interested in the bald, neurotic Jewish men not in tech who need help. Yes.
Yeah, I can't help you with that one.
Not that specific. No, but I'm sure your general coaching. That'd be cool. Yeah. If they say LinkedIn is obviously that's the best place for, entrepreneurial people who want to improve themselves. That's where they're hanging out. They're not doing TikTok dances on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Gary, well, there you go. Yeah. You could be, you probably could put little things on there, but Gary V says that LinkedIn is it's still ripe. Like you can get more for your money there, like whether you're advertising or posting on, the more people are going to see your stuff, because it's not the Wild West. Right. Or it is the Wild West, or I don't know what it is.
No, it's not. It's not. Like, I don't like Facebook, and I like Gary V, but no, LinkedIn is good.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So I will look for you there. We'll keep in touch. Hopefully I'll put your book in my Amazon store, Celebrity Josh on Amazon. And I guess we'll keep in touch, and maybe like in a month I can tell you I've made my billions, and I can be a guest on the Trina L. Martin Trina Talks show or something.
That's right. Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. It's now the sunset, so maybe I'll go see if my niece and nephew is still at the park, and I can do my family time, because I never had my own kids, so now I gotta mooch off of them for my love.
Okay.
All right. Have a good, what's that?
You got to do what you got to do.
That's it. That'll be the name of my book. And I'll credit you in the forward.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good workout.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye bye.